Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss? The final season of Star Trek Picard has already had a lot of great callbacks, while still creating an air of mystery around many aspects of the story, especially when it comes to the villain, Vadic. Now, I do have a theory about her that I'm going to save for a video in the near future, but today, I want to talk about these shadowy aliens that have been seen working as her crew, and why I think that they tie back not only to the Next Generation, but also the NX Enterprise, and even the Star Trek Online game. This is because I believe the aliens helping Vadic are the enigmatic Elachi. Now, if you have never heard of these aliens before, I'm going to go over their history as well as a piece of marketing released for the third season of Picard that may actually prove my theory. But before I get into all of that, I want to thank you for clicking on this video and ask that you hit the like button if you enjoy it, and don't forget to also hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of my future Star Trek videos. The first canon appearance of the Elachi was in the Star Trek Enterprise episode titled Silent Enemy. In that episode, a race of highly advanced aliens continually probe and attack the Enterprise until eventually they are driven off during a firefight. These aliens are not named at the time, which is rare in Star Trek, but given that the NX Enterprise was still piloting on the frontiers of space, it stands to reason that not everyone they meet would be friendly. In the episode, the aliens definitely had a very odd design since they do not appear to be outwardly advanced. Their suits actually resemble old astronaut suits or the type of suits the Enterprise crew were wearing at the time. But when fired upon with a phaser, the aliens were shown to each have a personal shield when this technology was not even available on Earth starships. Their ship is much more advanced than the NX Enterprise as well, disabling and boarding the Enterprise without issue while also deflecting the ship's scans when shielded. During one attack, the Enterprise is boarded and two members of the crew are subjected to evasive scans that almost leave them with permanent neurological damage. The alien race returned in the Star Trek Online game as a major antagonist and were named the Elachi. At first, they are working with the Romulan Star Empire and helping them rebuild. In that capacity, they attack independent Romulan states that are opposed to the new regime. Given their updated appearance, the Elachi have obviously made many technological advancements in the hundreds of years since we last saw them, with many Elachi enhancing their bodies with Borg-like cybernetic augmentations. They are also given a vast backstory where we learn that their native realm is subspace, and specifically the mycelial network, which if you watch Star Trek Discovery, you should be very familiar with, as that is the realm of subspace that the USS Discovery uses to operate their spore drive. Because of this, the Elachi cannot survive in our space without the use of a special suit that protects them. Eventually, it is revealed that the Elachi are actually working for an ancient and powerful race of beings known as the Iconians. The Iconians were first referenced in the Next Generation episode Contagion, in which a computer virus is responsible for the destruction of a Federation starship and almost destroys the Enterprise as well. The Romulans are also involved in this episode, especially a character named Taurus. Although she only makes this one appearance on the Next Generation, her character also becomes a major figure in the stories told within the Star Trek Online game, ultimately becoming Praetor of the Romulan Empire. In this episode of TNG, the Enterprise also learns that the Iconian home planet is located in the Romulan Neutral Zone, which creates a power struggle between the Federation and the Romulan Empire until Captain Picard orders the last piece of Iconian technology on the planet destroyed. This was not the end of the Iconian story though, as we learn in the Star Trek Online game that the Iconians are intent on starting a war with the known galaxy to reassert themselves as the dominant force. In a lot of ways, the Iconians are similar to the Founders of the Dominion War depicted during the series Deep Space Nine. Like the Founders, the Iconians use other races to enact their plans, and this is where the Elachi come in. The Elachi are basically to the Iconians what the Jem'Hadar are to the Founders, which are genetically altered and enhanced foot soldiers. I'm not going to ruin the story of the Elachi and the Iconians from the game, because it's really good, and if you're a Star Trek fan, I think you would really enjoy it. But for the purposes of this video, I think that this is enough for you to know about the history of the Elachi on screen as well as in the game. Being from the mycelial network, the physiology of the Elachi is very different than most humanoid beings. As I mentioned, when outside the network they are required to be in specialized suits to survive. They also use fungal biotechnology with trace amounts of spores that originate from the network. Elachi weaponry is also highly developed. An example of this would be the insect-like drones that they deploy in battle, which can be used for combat or other purposes, like grabbing their enemies during a fight and bringing them back to their ship to be experimented on. The Elachi reproduce by repurposing the bodies of their enemies, basically using them as livestock to create new members of their kind. So why do I think that the Elachi are the alien race helping Vadic during the third season of Picard? Although we have not seen many of these aliens, their large eye design does look similar to the Elachi seen in the Enterprise episode Silent Enemy. It also looks like they are wearing masks, with some kind of breathing apparatus, which would fall in line with the Elachi and their need to wear a protective suit in our space. There are also times when we can hear sounds coming from them that sound insect-like in nature, and as I mentioned, the Elachi do use technology in the Star Trek Online game that looks and sounds like insects. Also, their ships use weaponry with a green energy signature, and the Shrike, the ship that is commanded by Vadic, also uses green laser weaponry. Well, now it seems that we have some proof that the Elachi are in fact the villains serving Vadic this season, thanks to a piece of material released by Dave Blass, the production designer on Star Trek Picard. On his Instagram page, he released an intelligence report that looks to have been compiled by the Romulan government about the ships that attacked the SS Ilios in the first episode of the season. The report is rather lengthy, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will leave a link to it in the description if you'd like to check it out later. But this paragraph specifically is the one that reveals the involvement of the Elachi this season. It reads, "At any rate, I think these ships are exactly what you are looking for. Even the fearsome Tal Shiar know very little about their origins. They were built by a species who call themselves Elachi. One of the few things we know about them is that they have unique, almost fungal physiology. Beyond that, we have not learned much more." The report goes on to state that the Romulan Empire had limited reports on the Elachi until the Starburst or the destruction of the Romulan homeworld, and that there are also reports of Elachi raiding and abducting Romulan civilians for unknown purposes, which would seem to reveal that the Elachi are building a larger empire. The report is addressed to an individual known simply as T, and I believe that this T is for Taurus, the Romulan who I mentioned earlier that had appeared in the Next Generation episode Contagion. Since the third season of Picard takes place in just the beginning of the 25th century, and many events in the Star Trek Online game take place close to a decade later, at this point Taurus should still be in a position of power within the Romulan government, but not yet Praetor. But Taurus is not the only Romulan that is vying for power at this point, as her main rival should be Sela. Yes, the same Sela that is the daughter of Tasha Yar from an alternate universe and a Romulan general. Her character appeared in 4 episodes of The Next Generation, and Denise Crosby not only played the role, but was also the person who conceived the character. It has been rumored that Denise Crosby will return at some point in the 3rd season of Picard as Tasha Yar, but given this new information, I think it is very likely that she could return instead as Sela. Having both Taurus and Sela appear in the 3rd season of Picard would make a lot of sense too when you consider how important the Romulan evacuation was to Picard in the 1st season, especially if Picard were to learn what part both played in the destruction of their home planet. That is just my theory. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please remember to hit that like button if you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time on What Did I Miss?